The summer sun had only just begun to rise over the wide Arizona sky when the three Apache women started their walk toward the canyon. The air was soft and cool, touched by the fresh smell that followed the night's rain. The storm had been loud and bright, with heavy clouds rolling across the sky and flashes of lightning touching distant hills. But by morning, the land felt calm again. Drops of water glowed on cactus needles, and the ground carried the gentle scent of wet earth. Nayeli, Taza, and Sani walked together with easy steps, the way people walk on familiar land. They often traveled this path when they needed to gather desert plants, sage, yucca, and the small white flowers that grew near the canyon walls after the rain. The women were not related by blood, but they shared a long friendship. They trusted one another, laughed together, and supported each other through challenges. Nayeli was the thoughtful one, always watching the world with quiet eyes. She noticed the shape of clouds, the way the wind moved the grass, and the tiny marks left by animals that had passed during the night. Taza, taller and full of energy, often led the way, humming softly to herself. She loved stories and believed every sign in nature hinted at something meaningful. Sani was the calmest, gentle in her words and steady in her decisions. Together, the three women balanced each other in a natural, comfortable way. As they walked, they talked about small things, the fresh smell of the morning, the clear blue sky, and how grateful they were for the cooler air. The desert could become very warm during the day, but mornings like this made the land feel kind. When they reached the canyon rim, they paused as they always did. The canyon stretched low and wide before them, painted with colors of red, brown, gold, and deep green where plants grew close to the water far below. Morning light made the stone walls shine softly. A small hawk circled overhead, calling out as if greeting the day. "It looks peaceful today," Taza said, placing her hands on her hips as she looked down. "Everything is peaceful after a storm," Sani replied. But just as she said that, Nayeli narrowed her eyes and took a step closer to the edge. Something caught her attention near a cluster of stones farther down the slope. At first, she thought it was simply a piece of torn fabric caught on a bush. But then she noticed a shape behind it, still and quiet, in a way that made her heart tighten. "Do you see that?" Nayeli asked. Taza moved beside her. "Where?" "There," Nayeli said, pointing. "Near those rocks." All three women looked more closely. A moment passed in silence. Then Sani let out a slow breath. "I think someone is there?" They exchanged glances. Travelers sometimes passed through the area. Ranch hands, riders, hikers. Most stayed on the main paths, but storms could confuse anyone. Occasionally, people wandered too close to the canyon edges or lost their way. "We should go down," Sani said with quiet certainty. The slope wasn't too steep in that area, but they needed to descend with care. Rain had softened the ground, and loose stones could slide. The women walked carefully, holding onto sturdy branches and leaning on larger rocks as they approached the shape. As they got closer, the picture became clearer. It was a man lying on his side, dressed in dusty clothes that marked him as a cowboy traveling alone. His hat lay a few feet away, half filled with water from the storm. His boots were worn but strong, and a small leather bag sat nearby, untouched. The man did not move, but his chest rose and fell gently, showing that he was still breathing. His face looked tired, not hurt, but clearly troubled by long hours out in the weather. His skin was warm to the touch, too warm, as if he had spent the night in a place without shelter. The storm must have caught him by surprise, and the long night had taken much of his strength. "He is alive," Sani said softly after placing 2 fingers on his wrist. Nayeli knelt beside him. "He must have been out here during the storm. The wind was strong. He probably tried to find shelter and fell." Taza looked around the area. She saw small marks in the dirt, signs of footsteps, then a slide, Then stillness. "He must have slipped when the ground was wet," she said. "He doesn't look badly hurt, but he is weak." The three women stood in thoughtful silence for a moment. The land was quiet, except for the rustle of morning air. The cowboy was clearly alone, and there were no other riders or tracks nearby. If the women left him there, he might not have the strength to move before the sun grew warm again. "We cannot leave him," Sani said in a firm yet gentle voice. Taza nodded. "If we help him, we help a human being. That is enough reason." But Nayeli looked uncertain. "You know the old tradition," she reminded them quietly. "If we take him in, if we save him, the elders may say, it falls under the law of guardianship." Taza's expression softened. "That law is from a long time ago. People hardly speak of it now." "That," Sani looked at both of them. "Whether the law is used or not, this man needs help. And we are here. We cannot pretend we did not see him." The others agreed. They were not women who could turn away from someone in need, no matter who that person was. Together, they began to help the cowboy sit up. He opened his eyes just a little, his gaze confused and tired. He did not seem frightened, only lost in the foggy space between sleep and waking. "You're safe," Sani said in a soft, reassuring tone. "We will help you." The cowboy blinked as though trying to understand where he was and who these women were. Nayeli offered him a sip of water from her flask, and he accepted it gratefully, though he could only drink a little. "Can you stand?" Taza asked. He tried but could not manage more than a small movement. His legs trembled, and he leaned heavily against Nayeli. "He needs to rest," she said. "We must take him to our camp." The three women carefully supported his weight. It took time and patience, but they helped him rise and walk slowly up the slope. They paused often, so he could breathe. The cowboy did not complain. He simply tried his best to follow their steps. When they finally reached the top, the sun had risen higher, casting warm light across the canyon. The hawk still circled above, as if watching their slow climb with interest. Their small camp was not far, just a short walk through a cluster of tall desert shrubs and a narrow path shaded by mesquite trees. The camp had been set up days earlier for collecting plants and drying them in the sun. It had simple shelters made of canvas and woven mats, a fire pit, and clay pots filled with clean water. The women guided the cowboy to the most shaded area, where the ground was soft and the air cooler. They laid down a blanket for him and helped him lower himself onto it. His breathing eased as he rested, and some of the tension in his face faded. Sani wiped his forehead with a damp cloth. "He will feel better soon, with shade, water, and rest." Taza checked his bag for identification. Inside, she found simple items: dried food, a map, a small notebook with the name Elias Hart written on the inside cover, and nothing more. There was no sign of trouble or anything worrying, only the belongings of a person traveling alone. "Nayeli," Taza said, "we should tell the healer once he wakes enough to speak." Nayeli nodded, but looked uneasy. "If the elders hear of this, they might bring up the old law." Sani placed a hand on her shoulder. "We will handle that when the time comes. For now, we help him. That is what is right." The three women sat quietly for a while, watching over the stranger who fate had placed in their care. The morning breeze moved softly through the camp, carrying the scent of sage and warm earth. The cowboy slept peacefully, unaware of the ancient tradition his rescue might awaken. But for the women, the day had just begun, and they could already feel that this unexpected moment would change all of their lives in ways none of them could yet imagine. The sun climbed higher in the sky as the morning slowly warmed, casting soft light over the small camp. The cowboy Elias Hart slept quietly under the shade of the shelter the three Apache women had carefully prepared for him. His breathing had become steady, and the color in his face was slowly returning. Nayeli, Taza, and Sani stayed close by, working in silence as they tended to him. They mixed herbal tea using desert plants soaked in cool water, prepared fruit and bread for later, and checked his pulse from time to time. Even though they had found him only hours earlier, he felt like a responsibility they must handle with great care. Sani watched him with gentle eyes. "He is resting well," she said softly. Taza nodded. The storm must have made him very tired. Imagine spending the whole night alone in the open desert after such strong rain. Nayeli looked down at the cowboy, feeling both concern and curiosity. "He must have walked far," she said. "His boots are dusty, and his bag is light. Maybe he was trying to reach someone, or find work." They all wondered quietly about him. Who was he? Why was he traveling alone? What brought him so close to the canyon? But for the moment, none of those questions needed answers. The most important thing was that he was safe and slowly waking back to his strength. After some time, Elias stirred, moving his hand slightly. His eyelids fluttered, and he let out a small breath. The women immediately shifted closer. "You are awake," Sani said kindly, kneeling beside him. Elias opened his eyes slowly, blinking against the sunlight. For a moment, he looked confused, trying to understand where he was. Then, he saw the women's calm faces and the soft shade above him. "You're safe," Nayeli told him. "We found you near the canyon. You were very tired. You needed help." Elias swallowed, though his throat felt dry. Sani offered him a cup of cool water. "Drink slowly," she said. He took a small sip, then another, grateful beyond words. His hands were still weak, so Nayeli steadied the cup for him. After a moment, Elias looked around again. "Where am I?" Taza smiled a little, trying to bring him comfort. "In our camp," she explained. "We were gathering plants this morning and found you on the slope. We brought you here so you could rest." Elias nodded slowly, his mind clearing bit by bit. He shifted slightly on the blanket, testing his strength. His muscles felt heavy, but he was no longer as weary as before. "You saved me," he said softly. "I don't know how to thank you." "There is no need for thanks," Sani replied. "You needed help." For a few minutes, everyone sat quietly. The air moved gently, carrying the smell of warm earth and fresh herbs. A small breeze rustled the leaves of the mesquite trees, creating a soft, peaceful sound. Elias breathed deeply, his body relaxing with every passing moment. "I must have walked too far yesterday," he said finally. The storm came quickly. "I tried to find a safe place, but the ground was slippery." "You're lucky you didn't fall far," Nayeli said. "The land around the canyon can be tricky after rain." Elias gave a small smile. "I guess I learned that the hard way." Taza brought a bowl of fruit slices and set it beside him. "Eat a little," she said. "Your body needs strength." Elias took a piece of fruit carefully. As he ate, his eyes moved from one woman to the next, filled with gratitude. "I should introduce myself," he said gently. "My name is Elias Hart." "We know," Taza said with a small grin. "It was written in your notebook." Elias chuckled weakly. "Then I should thank you again for everything." "I am Sani," the calm woman said. "This is Nayeli. And this is Taza." He nodded to each of them, remembering their names with care. The women exchanged a small glance before Sani continued. "There is someone we should take you to see later, the healer of our people. She can check that you are truly fine." "That sounds wise," Elias agreed. But Nayeli seemed hesitant. She looked at Sani and Taza, then down at the ground. "Elias," she said carefully, "you should know. When we help someone like this, someone alone, someone outside our community, there is an old tradition among our people. It's called The law of guardianship. Elias frowned softly, not out of fear but curiosity. What does that mean? Sani answered gently. Long ago, if a group of unmarried women found someone in need and took responsibility for saving him, the elders would sometimes require the man to form a bond with them like joining their family. It was meant to protect both sides and ensure respect. Elias blinked, surprised, but he did not react with worry. He simply listened. But the world has changed, Taza added quickly. The law is hardly used anymore. Many people don't even talk about it now. So don't let it trouble you. Tay. Were. Tay. Elias took a slow breath. I see. Thank you for telling me. Love. 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 He did not seem alarmed, only thoughtful. A moment passed as everyone let the topic settle. The desert was quiet around them, with gentle sounds of nature filling the space. Birds calling softly, insects humming, leaves shifting in the breeze. Sani stood up smoothly. Elias, you should rest a bit more. Your body is still recovering. He nodded. I will try. As he lay back, the women walked a short distance away to gather more plants. While they worked, their voices were low, but calm. You think the elders will say something? Taza asked. Perhaps, Sani replied. He stayed in our care. The tradition is clear, even if it is rarely used. Nayeli sighed softly. I don't want him to feel pressured. He seems kind, and he is alone. He should not worry now. Nayeli. 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 Sighed him to fill her. We will talk to him when needed, Sani said. For now, kindness is enough. They gathered herbs carefully, filling small, woven baskets. The sun warmed the land, but not too much. A bright blue sky stretched endlessly above them, peaceful and open. After an hour, they returned to Elias, who had rested quietly and seemed a bit stronger. How are you feeling? Sani asked. Better, he said, just tired. But my head is clearer now. That is good, Nayeli said. Would you like to sit for a while? Elias tried with their help. His legs trembled a little, but he managed to sit upright, leaning against a sturdy wooden pole of the shelter. You have been very kind to me, he said with sincerity. I didn't expect anyone to find me this morning. You were meant to be found, Taza said softly. Things happen for a reason. Elias looked thoughtful. Maybe so. Sani prepared a small cup of warm herbal tea and handed it to him. Drink this. It will help your strength return. As Elias sipped the tea, he felt warmth spread through him, not just from the drink, but from the kindness the women showed. Their presence felt gentle and steady, like the calm after a long storm. He watched them speak quietly among themselves, working together in a peaceful rhythm. They moved with a sense of purpose and care that impressed him deeply. For the rest of the afternoon, the camp settled into a slow, quiet pattern. Elias rested and regained strength. The women prepared meals, arranged herbs to dry in the sunlight, and checked on him often. He felt grateful for their help and amazed by their patience. Every time he opened his eyes, one of them was nearby, making sure he was comfortable. As evening approached, long golden light filled the camp, stretching across the ground in soft lines. The air cooled again, carrying scents of desert flowers beginning to open. Elias watched the sky change colors: blue, then pink, then a warm shade of orange. This place feels peaceful, he said quietly. It is, Nayeli replied. And now it is part of your journey too. Elias smiled gently at her words. He didn't know what the coming days would bring. He didn't know what the elders would say about the old law, or what decisions would be asked of him. But for now, he was safe, cared for, and surrounded by people who treated him with kindness. And that was enough for the moment. The next morning arrived gently, with soft golden light stretching across the desert land. The camp was calm, quiet, and touched by cool morning air. Elias woke slowly, blinking at the brightening sky above him. The blanket beneath him felt warm from the rising sun, but the shade overhead kept him comfortable. He felt stronger than he had the day before. His body was still a little tired, but the heavy weakness he had felt earlier had faded. His thoughts were clear, and he could breathe easily without feeling drained. He stretched his arms carefully, feeling grateful for the renewed energy. The 3 Apache women were already awake. Sani sat near the fire, warming tea in a small pot. Taza sorted through a basket of herbs, tying some of them into neat bundles with thin strands of dried grass. Nayeli was checking Elias's boots, turning them over to remove dust and small stones caught in the seams. "You look much better this morning," Nayeli said when she noticed Elias sitting up. Elias smiled politely. "I feel better too. I'm thankful for all your help." "You're welcome," Sani said warmly. "Rest and care can work wonders." Taza walked toward him and placed a bowl of warm food beside him. "Eat this," she said. "You'll need strength for the day." Elias thanked her and began eating slowly. The warm meal filled him with comfort, and the gentle taste of the herbs made him feel grounded. Everything around him felt peaceful, the soft morning sounds, the women moving with calm focus, and the warmth of the sun as it rose higher. After breakfast, Sani looked toward the path leading to their village. "Today," she said gently, "we must bring you to visit the healer. She will make sure your body is fully well." Elias nodded. "I trust your guidance." But as soon as she said this, Nayeli and Taza exchanged a look that carried a quiet worry. They had known this moment was coming. Taking Elias to the village meant the elders would hear about him. And once the elders knew, the old tradition, the law of guardianship, would not remain a quiet thought anymore. Elias noticed their expressions, though he didn't say anything yet. Sani approached him and spoke kindly. "There is nothing to fear. The healer is wise and gentle. She only wants to help people." "I believe you," Elias said softly. They helped him stand. Elias leaned slightly on Taza at first, but soon he found he could walk with steady steps. His legs were stiff, but they no longer felt unsteady. The group began walking toward the village. The path was peaceful, with tall plants swaying lightly in the breeze and the sunlight forming patterned shapes on the ground. Birds also called softly from the trees. As they walked, Elias finally asked the question he had been holding in his mind. "You mentioned yesterday the law of guardianship. Will the elders speak of it today?" Nayeli hesitated, then answered honestly. "We cannot be certain. Maybe they will. Maybe they will not. The tradition is very old." Taza added gently. "It hasn't been used in many years. Many think of it as something from another time. But some elders still believe strongly in old customs." Elias nodded slowly. "I understand. If it does come up, I hope it can be talked about calmly." "It will be," Sani assured him. "Our people value peace in all conversations." The walk took almost an hour. The land opened up, revealing the small village nestled between tall cottonwood trees and low desert shrubs. The homes were simple and warm, built with natural clay and wood, arranged in a welcoming circle. When they entered the village, some people looked up in quiet curiosity. Visitors were rare, especially a stranger brought in by 3 women together. Their eyes followed Elias with polite interest, not unkind, but surprised. Sani guided them toward the healer's home. The healer, Elder Atsa, was a respected woman with silver hair and kind yet sharp eyes. She greeted the group with a gentle smile. "You have brought someone in need," she said, observing Elias kindly. "Come inside." Elias stepped inside the healer's home, where cool air and a soothing scent of herbs surrounded him. Atsa checked his pulse, asked him simple questions, and listened carefully to his breathing. "You are recovering well," she said after a while. "You only need rest, water, food, and calm days. You will be strong again soon." Elias bowed his head respectfully. "Thank you. Atsa's smile was warm. Thank the ones who brought you here. Their care gave you this chance. Buddion, Atsa's. Elias looked at the three women with gratitude in his eyes. I am thankful, he said, sincerely. But then Atsa's expression shifted. Not unkind, but more thoughtful. She looked at the three women. Then, at Elias once more. Did anyone inform the council? She asked softly. Taza and Nayeli glanced at each other again. No, she admitted. Not yet. We wish to focus on helping him first. Atsa nodded. That was wise. But the council will need to know now. Elias felt the air grow slightly heavier, though not unpleasant. He sensed something important was about to happen. Atsa stepped outside and called for the council. Soon, a small group of elders gathered near the healer's home. They formed a quiet circle, their eyes calm but observant. One elder, a tall man with gentle lines on his face, spoke first. That is true, Sani said. He was alone and weak. The storm left him without shelter. We helped him and brought him here for care. The elder nodded slowly, looking thoughtful. You acted with kindness. That is the way of our people. Another elder, a woman with soft eyes, looked at Elias. You are welcome here, she said. Your journey brought you to safety. Elias bowed his head. I am grateful. But then, the first elder turned his gaze back to Sani, Nayeli, and Taza. There is also another matter. The old tradition states that when three unmarried women give rescue and care to an outsider, a bond must be formed. A bond of responsibility and unity. Taza gently inhaled. She knew this moment was coming. Nayeli looked down, thinking carefully. Sani remained calm, ready to speak with honesty. The elder continued. We do not follow old laws blindly. The world has changed, and so have we. But we also respect our traditions. The law of guardianship asks us to consider whether a connection must be created between those who gave care and the man who received it. Elias took in the words respectfully. He did not speak yet, giving the elders full attention. The elder with the soft eyes added, It is not about force or pressure. It is about honor and shared responsibility. It is a bond that protects trust. Elias finally spoke. I understand. I want to respect your traditions, but I also want to understand them fully. Atsa, the healer, stepped forward. This bond does not demand anything unkind. It is a promise of mutual support. It means the man becomes part of the community of those who saved him, offering respect, help, and unity. It is a gentle promise, not something that limits anyone. The words eased the tension in the air. Taza said softly, We helped him because it was right, not because we expected anything from him. And that is exactly why the tradition honors your choice, the elder replied. Elias breathed slowly. If this bond is meant to show respect, then I would like to hear more about it. The elders nodded approvingly. Sani glanced at Elias with soft eyes. We can explain everything to you. And whatever you decide, it will be your decision. Elias felt their calm sincerity. He wasn't afraid. He simply felt the deep weight of something meaningful forming around him. The meeting ended gently, with no pressure, only understanding and time for thought. As the group walked back toward the healer's home, the air felt different. Something old and important had awakened. Elias felt it too, not as a burden, but as a path opening before him. And though he didn't know how the days ahead would unfold, he sensed that this moment was only the beginning of a connection larger than any of them expected. The days after the meeting with the elders passed slowly, each one filled with quiet thoughts and gentle conversations. Elias remained in the village, still recovering but able to walk, talk, and help with small tasks. The three women stayed by his side, often sometimes guiding him, sometimes simply sharing silence with him as he adjusted to the new environment. Even though everything around him was calm, Elias felt a kind of weight inside. Not heavy, but meaningful. The elder's words echoed in his mind. The idea of a sacred bond, one that connected him to the three women who had saved his life, was something he wanted to understand fully before making any decision. For the women, it was no easier. Each of them carried their own thoughts. Nayeli wondered whether the bond would change the lives they had built together as friends. Taza tried to stay cheerful, but even she felt the seriousness of the situation. Sani, as usual, carried the responsibility quietly, her heart steady but thoughtful. One afternoon, the sun hung warm in the sky, and soft shadows stretched across the village. Elias asked if he could spend time with each woman separately, to understand them better and learn what this ancient bond truly meant from their own hearts. They agreed. Elias walked first with Nayeli. She guided him to a quiet spot, near a small stream on the edge of the village. The water shimmered in the sunlight, creating a peaceful melody as it flowed over smooth stones. The air smelled fresh, and a gentle breeze brushed past them. "Thank you for spending time with me," Elias said. Nayeli smiled softly. "It is no trouble. I think it is good for both of us." They sat on a large flat rock beside the stream. Elias watched the water for a moment, then turned to her. "I want to understand how you feel about the elder's decision," he said gently. "You helped me without expecting anything. I don't want to cause trouble for you." Nayeli nodded slowly, taking a thoughtful breath. "I helped you because it felt right. When we saw you near the canyon, something inside told me we must not walk away." Her voice was soft, but steady. "But the tradition, it is old. It is respected. But it is not something I expected to face in my life." She gently traced a small line on the rock with her finger. "I don't feel afraid," she continued. "But I do feel uncertain. Not about you, Elias. Only about what this bond might require." Elias listened carefully. "I don't want to cause confusion or pressure. If this bond brings difficulty—" Nayeli smiled kindly. "You have only brought kindness. And I believe everything happens for a reason." They sat quietly for a while, watching sunlight dance on the water. Nayeli's calm presence made Elias feel at ease. He understood her better now, a woman who noticed the world deeply, who trusted her instincts, and who carried her thoughts quietly but gracefully. Later, Elias walked with Taza. She led him along a path lined with tall grasses and tiny yellow flowers. Taza carried a small basket, collecting plants she recognized as useful. Her hands moved quickly and skillfully. "You're good at this," Elias said with admiration. Taza laughed softly. "I have practiced since I was little. My grandmother taught me." Elias walked beside her, enjoying the lively energy she always brought. After a few minutes, he spoke. "Taza, how do you feel about what the elders said?" "Taza." She took a deep breath, then looked at him with clear eyes. "I won't pretend that it is simple," she said, honestly. "When we carried you up from the canyon, I only wanted to help. None of us imagined this old law would return." She knelt to pick a flower, placing it gently into her basket. "But I am not afraid of new paths. Life often brings surprises. Some are small, some are big. I believe that when something appears in our path, we should look at it closely before deciding if it belongs in our journey." Elias appreciated her hopeful spirit. Taza smiled. "Maybe too much sometimes," she joked lightly. "But I want you to know this. I don't think the bond is something to fear. It is not ownership, not a rule that controls people. It is a shared promise, a bridge between lives. If it is chosen with respect, it can bring strength." Her words stayed in his mind long after their walk ended. Later in the day, Elias spent quiet time with Sani. She took him to the fields where the village grew corn and beans. The plants stood tall, their leaves rustling gently in the breeze. Sani walked slowly, letting Elias set the pace. "You've healed well," she said. "Soon you will be strong enough to travel wherever you wish." Elias looked at the fields around them. "I'm not sure where I will go," he admitted. "That is natural," Sani said. "When life changes suddenly, the path ahead can look unclear." They found a shaded spot under a tree and sat down. Elias turned to her with an honest expression. "Sani, you were the one who first said we could not leave me there. How do you feel about all of this now?" A. T. A. T. 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 Sani closed her eyes for a moment, gathering her thoughts. She opened her eyes again. "The tradition, it is meaningful, but I never believed it would come into my life. Still, I trust that everything unfolds the way it should." She looked at him gently. "The bond does not mean you must become someone you are not. It does not mean we must change who we are. It means we support each other. It means we walk forward with respect." Her voice held a quiet strength. Elias understood that Sani was a woman who chose her words carefully, who valued truth and kindness above all else. After spending the day with each woman, Elias felt as though he understood them far better. Their kindness, their fears, their hopes, all of it painted a clearer picture of what this bond could mean. Not something forced or unwanted, not something heavy, but something built on trust, choice, and honesty. That evening, the sun dipped low, painting the sky in beautiful shades of orange and pink. The four of them gathered outside the camp, watching the sky slowly change. A comfortable silence settled around them. Elias finally spoke. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for showing me your hearts today. I feel honored." Nayeli gave a gentle nod. "We are glad you asked." Taza leaned forward slightly. "And now you must know whatever decision you make, it must come from peace, not pressure." Sani added softly, "We will not push you. This bond is only meaningful if it is accepted with a calm mind." Elias looked at each of them, feeling a gentle warmth inside his chest. "I don't want to leave without understanding everything," he said. "Not just the tradition, but the lives I have stepped into." The women listened closely, their eyes filled with quiet attention. "I don't yet know my final decision," Elias said slowly. "But I do know this. I feel safe with you. I respect you, and I want to understand your world more." A soft breeze moved across them, almost as though the land itself approved of his words. The night settled in peacefully. Stars began to appear in the wide sky, shining gently. The women stayed beside him, sharing stories about the constellations and their meanings. Elias listened, feeling a deep connection forming between them, not hurried, not demanded, but growing naturally, like a seed waking in soft soil. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he sensed that whatever happened next would shape all of their lives in quiet, beautiful ways. The next morning arrived with a warm, soft glow spreading across the land. The sky was painted in gentle shades of orange and gold as the sun slowly rose above the horizon. Birds fluttered from tree to tree, filling the air with light morning songs. The village felt calm, yet there was a quiet sense of importance in the air. Everyone seemed to know that this day would bring something meaningful. Elias woke early, feeling a peaceful energy inside him. His strength had almost completely returned. His body felt steady, his mind clear, and his heart calm. The last few days had changed him in ways he could hardly explain. He had come here as a weak traveler who needed help. But now he felt connected to the land, the people, and especially the three women who had shown him more kindness than he ever expected from strangers. He stepped outside the small shelter he had been given, breathing in the fresh morning air. The sunlight felt warm on his skin, not harsh, but comforting. As he looked around, he saw Nayeli, Taza, and Sani walking toward him with gentle smiles on their faces. "You slept well?" Sani asked, with her usual calm voice. "Yes," Elias replied. "Today feels important." Taza nodded. "It is important. The elders will speak with us again this morning. They want to know what your heart has decided." Nayeli added softly, "Whatever choice you make, we will support it." Elias appreciated their words more than he could express. He felt no pressure from them, only understanding and quiet respect. The four walked together toward the center of the village. People were gathering softly, calmly, without noise or excitement. Elders stood near the fire pit, their expressions warm and peaceful. Atsa, the healer, stood nearby, her silver hair shining softly in the sunlight. Everyone formed a circle, giving the moment the honor it deserved. The tall elder with gentle lines on his face stepped forward. "Elias Hart," he said, "you have spent days in our care. You have spoken with the women who helped you. Now we ask, with respect, if you have a decision about the sacred bond." Elias took a slow breath. When he spoke, his voice was steady and honest. "I have thought deeply. I have walked with them, talked with them, and listened to them. I now understand what the bond means. It is not a rule of force. It is a promise of respect, unity, and support." The elder nodded, pleased with the clarity of his words. Elias turned to the three women. "Nayeli, Taza, Sani, I want to honor the care you gave me. Not because the tradition demands it, but because I feel in my heart that you brought light into my life when I needed it most. If you accept me, I want to walk this path with you." His words felt soft, but they carried a deep sincerity. Nayeli's eyes warmed, shimmering with emotion. "Your kindness is felt," she said quietly. "And yes, I accept." Taza smiled brightly, her lively spirit glowing. Sani placed a gentle hand on Elias's arm. "I also accept. Let this be a bond of peace and strength." A quiet murmur of approval spread through the gathered villagers. There was no loud celebration, only a deep sense of harmony moving through the air like a gentle breeze. The elder with soft eyes stepped forward. "Then today, at the time of the rising sun, we will hold the ceremony. It will be a simple, peaceful joining, not a celebration of ownership or control, but a recognition of shared futures." Elias bowed respectfully. "I am ready." The three women nodded in unison. Atsa, the healer, motioned for all of them to follow her to the ceremonial grounds just beyond the village. The area was a natural circle, formed by tall stones, smooth from many years of wind and sunlight. Flowers grew in small clusters, their colors bright and welcoming. The villagers gathered quietly around the edges, allowing space for Elias and the women to stand at the center. The gentle hum of the wind moved through the circle like a soft song, as though the land itself was present for the ceremony. Atsa began speaking in a calm, steady voice. "This ceremony is not a command, it is a promise. It is not about changing who you are. It is about choosing to share paths with honesty, trust, and care." She handed each of them a small piece of woven cotton ribbon, made from natural fibers, dyed with gentle colors, soft blue for the sky, warm brown for the earth, and pale yellow for the sunlight. "These colors represent balance," Atsa said. "Earth, sky, and sun, three elements, always present, always connected." Elias held his ribbon carefully, feeling the simple beauty of it. Nayeli, Taza, and Sani each held their own ribbons as well. Atsa instructed them to tie their ribbons gently around each other's wrists, symbolizing unity, not tight, not binding, just enough to represent connection. Elias tied one ribbon around Nayeli's wrist. Their hands touched briefly, warm and steady. Nayeli tied hers gently around his. The gesture felt quiet, but meaningful. He did the same with Taza. She smiled softly as she tied her ribbon around his wrist, her touch light but full of warmth. Then he turned to Sani. Their eyes met with mutual trust. When she tied her ribbon around his wrist, Elias felt a calming peace flow through him. The villagers watched with quiet respect. There was no loud cheering, only a sense of unity spreading through the space. Atsa raised her hands. "The bond is formed," she said. "Not as ownership, not as a rule, but as a shared promise. Walk together with respect. Learn from each other. Grow with patience. Support one another in times of need. And always remember that this bond was chosen with full hearts." A gentle breeze passed through the stone circle, lifting the edges of the ribbons and making them flutter softly. It felt like a blessing from the land itself. After the ceremony, people offered small smiles and warm nods. Some handed the group little handmade gifts, woven bracelets, small clay figures, or dried herbs for good fortune. Everything was given peacefully and sincerely. As the crowd slowly dispersed, Elias, Nayeli, Taza, and Sani remained near the tall stones, taking a quiet moment for themselves. "It feels peaceful," Elias said softly. "Not heavy. Just right." Nayeli nodded. "Because it was chosen with understanding." Taza laughed lightly. "And because the land agrees with it." Sani smiled gently. "Now we begin a shared chapter. One step at a time. Now." They walked back to the village together, the sunlight warm on their backs. Children ran by, laughing. The smell of cooking drifted through the air. Life felt steady and natural. In the days that followed, Elias became part of the rhythm of the village. He learned to help with tasks, carrying water, tending crops, gathering plants. The three women taught him the ways of the land, and he shared what he knew about ranch work, tools, and traveling. Their bond grew not through pressure but through simple moments, shared meals, quiet walks, soft conversations, and gentle laughter. They were not a traditional family, but a unique one built on mutual care and respect. Nayeli admired his thoughtful nature. Taza enjoyed his stories and lively spirit. Sani appreciated his steady heart and gentle words. And Elias appreciated each of them for who they were, different, yet connected, each bringing something special into his life. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Elias stood with the three women and looked out at the horizon. The sky was glowing with warm colors, and the air was filled with the peaceful sound of nature settling down for the night. "I never expected my journey to lead here," Elias said softly. "But I'm grateful it did." Nayeli smiled. "Life guides us in quiet ways." Taza nudged him playfully. "And sometimes in surprising ways, too." Sani placed her hand on his arm. We are exactly where we are meant to be." The four of them stood together, wrapped in the soft glow of the evening. Their lives were now woven together, not by chance, not by ancient law alone, but by choice and gentle connection. And so, Elias' heart was no longer a traveler lost near a canyon. He was a part of something peaceful, something meaningful, a shared bond that brought harmony, trust, and quiet joy into all their lives.